everyone, I'm Dr. Neda. I'm a single mom of 2 teenage sons whom I love and, like every parent, want the very best for. I consider myself a very strong woman capable of doing many different things. I grew up in Middle East where I witnessed firsthand women fighting for their rights on a daily basis. So you can imagine how thrilled I am with the rise of the divine feminine in human consciousness. Although it's a paradigm that's slow to change and it's encountering a lot of resistance, I see glimmers of light everywhere, including at my boys' all-military school, where they've appointed the first female president in the 110 years of the school's history. What concerns me is that pendulums tend to swing from one polarity to another, and I'm concerned that masculine energy will not be respected and honored, and it will lead to more separation between men and women. In a perfect world, we will find a balance between divine masculine and feminine polarities. In doing so, we can unravel the division that impacts us all. This is the reason why I'm inspired to do these interviews, to shine a light on a positive balance. So what is a divine masculine? What does it entail and what does it bring forth? Men in their positive polarities, they're calm, they're centered, they're supportive, they're secure, rational, and very reasonable. They are clear-minded and action-oriented. They're powerful and decisive, and they guide with courage and self-discipline. They're reflective thinkers who passionately guide and help others. These extraordinary men are the ones who lead from their hearts and not with their emotional egos. The wonderful men that I'm privileged to interview are the reflectives of the positive polarity of divine masculine. These are quality men who are strong, respectable, honorable, and really deserve to be celebrated. Please go ahead and hit that like button, comment, ask questions, share, and subscribe. You're a very valuable part of this movement, and your opinion really matters. Thank you very much. Light, love, and blessings to you all. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Neda, and today we have our coach, Kemp, here with us. A person that I really respect. He's a private boxing coach for my sons, for my 2 sons. And I'm really privileged to have him on this show because I look at him as a real role model for young men and all the men out there because he's very respectful, he's very honorable, and it's amazing to have him on the show so that people actually can see what a real role model of a man looks like. So thank you so much for being on this show, Coach Allen. I'm really, really happy to have you here. So now you can introduce yourself and tell everyone how amazing and incredible and your life story so people can get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you, Dr. Neda. Appreciate the invitation. Well, my background started rather early in the boxing arena. When I was a young boy, I was getting pushed around a lot in the neighborhood. I lived in a tough neighborhood in Buffalo, New York, and my father decided he was going to teach me how to box to protect myself in the neighborhood. So that's how it all started. Of course, I found out later it started much earlier when I found a picture of myself as a baby in boxing gloves.
Yes, that is.
And I've shared that with you.
Yes, beautiful picture. I love that picture.
So I was well schooled in the techniques of boxing early on. And then when I became a teenager, I got into the Golden Gloves competition and fought in the Golden Gloves for 6 years after training, I think 7 or 8 years before that. So I already had a long career by the time I got into the Golden Gloves. Golden Gloves, I won 3 championships in Buffalo. I went to the nationals a couple of times. And then as I got older, got in college and so forth, I decided that I was going to take a break from boxing because by then I had been in it so long, and decided to take a break. Then a couple of years later I said, I really miss it. I miss the discipline. You know, it's what I do best. I want to go back to it, so I turned professional. And I had a professional career for about 3 years, 14 fights. I won my first 12. I lost my last 2. We can talk about that later. What happened was very interesting, that I lost the desire. What it's called in boxing is the ring desire. And I lost that. And in my last fight, I didn't have that desire, and I decided to hang them up, as they say. Okay? And I started coaching quite a few years after my career ended. I had a whole nother career in live event technology, in video production, in film making for about 25, 30 years.
That's
and
amazing.
It was a long period.
Different lifestyle.
Yeah. And I had moved out to California to pursue that after boxing out of Buffalo, New York. Yeah.
What life lesson did you learn the hard way?
Well, I learned a hard lesson when I was very young. I had an older cousin, and I looked up to him and hung around with him, and he got me into trouble.
Oh.
So one day, he said, hey, we're going to go, and church is closed, but we're going to climb over the railings, over the fence, and we're going to get into the church. I said, why? Well, we'll just go inside. And I was a follower. He was the bigger kid. I was maybe 9, 10 years old. I don't remember. And reluctantly, I went, but I followed. We went in, and as I got over the fence, my pants hooked on the fence, and I fell down, hit my head, bloody, cut my head open bad.
Oh my God.
And we somehow got back. I went back home. Everyone was hysterical. I ended up going to the hospital, have it stitched, and they wanted me to stay in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, and for observation to make sure I hadn't a severe concussion.
Exactly.
And it was a very scary, awful experience for me. And in that ward that I was in, there was another young boy in there, my age or maybe a little older, who had hitched a ride on an open freight car on the railroad. And my father had worked in the railroad, and he said, don't you ever go and play on the tracks. And I never did. But this poor kid lost one leg and one arm.
Oh my
and he was in the bed opposite me. And it was a very, very profound experience. And I thought to myself, I've got to learn to be responsible and accountable to myself in my own little boy way. I've got to learn to be my own leader and think about what I'm doing and do the right thing, not the wrong thing.
Absolutely.
And that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned as a boy early on.
That was a very big lesson to learn. And it's almost like you paid a big price for it, but you learned it at a very young age, which is the positive, I guess, out of it. So, Coach Allen, where do you find your inspiration?
Well, I find
because you inspire so many people. It's really interesting to see where you find your inspiration.
Well, I find it inspiring, inspiration, I should say, almost everywhere. I mean, whether it's in a movie or watching kids train or watching a mom take care of her kids, a book, there's all kinds of places. So I feel stimulated every day that I get up. And I feel like there's so much to live for and so much to learn and to do.
Yes.
So I have absolutely no lack of inspiring things in my life.
That's amazing. That's beautiful, because it's always almost the small things that add up. If you want inspiration, you really can find it anywhere.
You really can.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
That's beautiful. So what impact do you want to leave on the world?
Hello, everyone. Coach Allen Kemp here. Looking forward to getting you back in the gym soon. I wanted to do a quick demo of some shadow boxing techniques and also some footwork that you can practice at home or here in the gym to improve your game. Most important thing I think you can do for yourself is to shadow box in the mirror. Change your combinations, jabs, crosses, hooks, footwork, proper stance.
Coach Allen, you've done so much already, but what is probably one thing you would love to be remembered, which at the end of all our days, we want something to leave behind as a legacy
Sure. I do want to leave a legacy behind. I would certainly like to leave what I know to others, and that's why I'm coaching and I'm teaching. And at the same time I'm teaching classic boxing, I think that I'm teaching other things as well.
Yes.
I mean, how both men and women, you know, how they should approach tasks, things they want to learn, you know, the self-discipline that it takes, the commitment that it takes. I mean, that kind of thing you can learn as a young person. And that's why I enjoy working even with kids and teenagers and so forth, because you can learn those things. And once they do learn those, they can carry that over for the rest of their lives and make a huge difference, whatever they decide to do. I always tell the young boxers and folks that I'm working with, even if it's fitness, whatever you learn here, whatever you can apply later, perhaps in other pursuits.
Absolutely.
You know, the discipline, once again, also having fun. Having
Yes.
fun and staying healthy. It's as simple as that. But then if you do set yourself up and you want to compete, as I've got a lot of guys that are competitors. I say guys, I mean women as well. Competitors, whether in the amateur ranks or in the professional ranks, it's a huge challenge. To get into the ring for competition, it takes a lot of courage, dedication, and it's such an important moment that anyone who's ever tried it, done it, never forgets that moment.
That's beautiful. I even have goosebumps in my body. That's
Yeah,
beautiful,
it's
what you're doing. So, Coach Allen, can you think of a time that impossible became possible for you?
Well, I tell the story sometimes that in a competition, when I was fighting, I was boxing, oftentimes I was what they call a slow starter. Mm-hmm. It took me a while to get warmed up. But in the amateurs, you only have 3 rounds. So fighting in the amateurs and the Golden Gloves and so forth, I found that maybe I was losing the first round. As I went on later in my career and I became a professional, and we were fighting longer fights, 5, or I should say 6, 8, and so forth rounds, I found that if I was getting beat, oftentimes I was getting beat early. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck am I going to pull this out? How am I going to win this fight? How am I going to win? I don't see a possibility. But I would always draw on this. I'd say, I don't know how. I'm in the ring. The guy's punching away. We're fighting. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to win this fight, but I'm just going to hang in. I'm going to outlast this guy. I'm just going to hang in. I'm going to win this fight. I don't know how. And I would just do that, hang in, and it worked.
Like the persistence, not giving up, and the determination to go to the end.
Right. So the impossible is never possible until you get there.
Yes.
But you got to go there.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got to go there. It seems impossible at first, but if you put forth the effort, you have the commitment and the confidence, and keep plugging away, keep punching, as they say.
Yes.
You're going to reach that point, reach that goal.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that was my experience.
That's a great way to look at it, just hanging in there. How do you know when it's time to continue holding on or time to let go?
Well, that's a good follow-up to this, because in my last professional fight, I may have mentioned earlier to you that I didn't have that same ring desire.
Yes.
But I had made a commitment to take on the fight, and I was going to fight in Montreal, a long way away from home, against a fighter who won the gold medal in the Olympics. And I knew it was going to be really tough. And I just didn't have the old confidence, and the fight just did not go well. And I ended up losing that fight, and upon that result, I hung up my gloves. I stopped. I stopped boxing, and that's what eventually I moved to the West Coast, and I got into production and with video and live events and so forth.
Yeah, but that's good, because that was the almost turning point to know that this is it for you. And we as humans evolve, and I've been for 24 years of my life a chiropractor, acupuncturist, and now I'm doing these things because, you know, we want to experience life to the fullest. And sometimes we do things and we outgrow them and we want to do other things. And for me, it's always been about helping people one way or another.
Right.
So whatever way we can contribute, I believe.
Right.
So where do you find peace, Coach Allen? With all the boxing and everybody fighting, where is the peace?
Well, actually, the boxing gym is, believe
Very
it or not,
peaceful.
is very peaceful for me. It's very peaceful because we're working on training and so forth. So it is a very peaceful place.
That's interesting.
In the ring, you have to, when you're sparring and you're getting in shape for a fight and you're teaching people, you have to have control. Everyone needs to be under control.
Yes.
As a coach, it's my responsibility to make sure that people don't get hurt in the gym, that they're doing what it takes to get better, and that's not going all out in a sparring match in the gym. This is what I always say, it's a classroom.
Yes.
You learn in there. And I like to think a classroom is a place of peace, of learning, of collaboration, and trust and respect. A great gym, it's a wonderful space to be because you have this sense of self-respect among the participants. Everyone in that location understands that, hey, it's not easy. Everyone is working hard. They're listening. They're trying to learn, so you respect each other. It's one of the coolest environments I can think of. I love that environment. But I get peace at home. I'm very peaceful at home. I love to be at home with my wife, and I'm a movie fan. We read, we listen to music. So I don't have any problem with that at all.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that. So the next question will be, what is the nicest thing someone has ever done for you?
Well, this is related to the boxing. This was back in 2011 when I just was in the coaching for about 2 or 3 years. And I get a phone call from an old friend that I probably hadn't talked to in 20 plus years. I thought it was strange that he would call me. I had no reason why he would call me. And he called me, and I thought, gee, do I owe this guy some money? Or, is he angry about something?
So many years.
Because he was what we call in the boxing game a stablemate. My father coached him. My father coached me. And so we sparred together from time to time. We also played baseball together. My dad was also a baseball coach. And I have to talk about my dad later. But he calls me up and he said, Alan, would you mind if I nominated you for the Buffalo Boxing Hall of Fame?
Wow.
I said, no, I
That's
don't
amazing.
mind. So, in fact, I was inducted that year.
That's
so
amazing.
It was great to go back to my hometown from California, go back, see a lot of the old fighters, my old friends, family back there, and to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. That was one of the nicest things, if not the nicest thing that ever happened to me.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody thinking of you, and you had so much history with this person.
And ironically,
you're my wings to fly, my eyes to see. You're my air to breathe, my heart to beat. The more I get to know you, the more I see of me. The more I get to love you, the more I feel free.
Hello. I just wanted to say that approximately a year ago, I came in here for treatments and to Dr. Netta's office, and Dr. Marjan did some acupuncture on my back, which helped tremendously. And at the same time, I told her I was working on quitting to smoke, so she actually put some needles and left them in purposely. And I just want to say that I haven't smoked one cigarette and haven't had an urge since then. Thank you.
the same fellow confided in me something I didn't know. He said, one of the times we sparred, you broke my nose.
Oh my God.
And I just got the nose fixed, finally. I said, I'm sorry, man. I had no idea. I had no idea I broke his nose.
Well, you still meant a lot to him for him to nominate you.
So that's the irony.
That's amazing. So what is the best decision you've ever made, actually? That's...
Okay. Well, I touched upon it And the best decision I ever made was deciding to move from the Northeast and move out away from the cold and the blizzards
Yes.
to sunny California. And I also wanted to pursue a career in filmmaking,
Yes.
video production, live event staging, and it turned out to be the best move I ever made. And on top of that, I did that in '78, and in '81 I had the wonderful experience of meeting my wife, and we've been married ever since then, happily married.
See, you were being called
Yeah.
to the West Coast. That's for sure. So, who had the greatest impact in your life? Was it your father?
Yes.
Because
yeah.
I know that you were mentioning him. Yes.
Yeah, my father was extraordinary human being. I mean, just extraordinary. And fortunately, I was the firstborn, and I got favoritism, no doubt about it. And I also got to experience him when he was younger than my other brothers and sisters. But he was a self-taught boxing coach. He was a self-taught baseball coach. He was a self-taught dancer.
Wow.
He was an amazing
That's
character.
crazy.
And so, as I told you before, I got in a little trouble when I was younger and I was getting pushed around. I was a slight kid. I mean, I'm not a big, husky dude. I am always been a long, lean guy. And I got pushed around and beat up. And my father said, well, that's enough. We're going to teach you how to box. And so I started going to the gym when I was very young, 7 or 8 years old. And to have that bond with my father, teaching me lessons every day. We'd go to the movies together. We'd go to the baseball games together. I'd play baseball on teams he coached. He did everything with me, and it's just something that most sons or daughters have a chance to experience. So that was an extraordinary, wonderful experience that set me up for my life and taught me many, many things, exposed me to many, many things. However, it's not all good. He had his demons,
Yes.
you know, as we all do, and I had to contend with those. And even in contending with those demons, I learned what's good, what's bad, what to avoid.
You still learned from
Yeah,
them.
and he, in teaching me, advised me and guided me to follow a different path than he did.
That's amazing. What an amazing soul he was.
No, he was extraordinary.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he
Having
was-
that kind of a role model and wanting the best for you under all circumstances, even saying, don't follow what I did, you
Right.
go this path.
Right.
That's
Right.
amazing.
Yeah, it was, you know, I'm very fortunate.
So now we're going to go to the next one. Your favorite sounds. I can't believe you chose that. Coach
Well-
Alan, you're so cute.
I kind of changed it up a little bit, but
Yes.
you know, you asked me for a single choice, and I'm never going to give you just one
Yes.
choice.
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to give you more. But if I had to be completely frank and honest, the sweetest sound to my ears is a blues harp. A blues harp is an electrified harmonica playing in the blues idiom, electric blues, which is a music idiom you may or may not be familiar with. The Rolling Stones, for example,
Yes.
that is their birthplace. Now, they took it another way. They took it more into the rock and roll.
Yes.
But they came from being so influenced by the Chicago electric blues scene in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And all of those African-American artists, incredible guys, Muddy Waters, Little Walter, that was the blues that, when I hear that harmonica, chills every time.
Oh, it
Chills.
really goes to your soul.
But
That's
then I just want to add one more that really gets me every time. I have 2 daughters, grown daughters, and still they say daddy. And when they say daddy, that is so sweet.
See?
You know what I mean?
You're definitely a man who lives from the heart and leads from the heart and guides from the heart. And these are the men that I'm actually interviewing. Yeah, which is
Thanks.
beautiful. I really appreciate that. So, Coach Alan, recent compliments you've received.
Well, Dr. Ned has given me a few.
I knew I was going to be in there. I'm like, I actually gave you compliments lately. Yes. But
No,
you're amazing. Of course, I'm sure you hear compliments all the time.
well, I hear compliments over the years, I'm happy to say, about the training. And what's really gratifying is when you hear, hey, I ran into one of the guys that you trained, and he is terrific. And he tells me the best experience he ever had in learning was working with you. So, I mean, those are far and few between, but generally speaking, those compliments are just the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Especially because you're teaching where your heart is,
Right.
and coming from other people, it's amazing.
Right.
It feeds the soul, basically. So what do you love to do in your spare time?
Well, I mentioned music. I talked to you a little bit about music. Love to listen to music, go to concerts with my wife. Movies is really my passion. And I also love to go to film festivals. Mm-hmm. So I have a collection of films. I collect music. I collect books, books on whether it's boxing or the arts. I mean, arts and style and even personal expression in homes and in your attire. I mean, I'm fascinated by all that stuff, and I have always been a fan of personal style. And in boxing, you can absolutely display a personal style. And since you are in show business, it's not just performative. You're in show business. You want to give the fans a show. So I always tried to do that in a stylish way, not in a rough, bullying way or slugging way. That wasn't my style. My style was to be a classic boxer, to move, to be deft and clever, and to be, if I've got a guy hurt, I'll try to go for the knockout. But I want to put on a good show. And fortunately, many of my fights turned out to be crowd pleasers.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I was asking Coach Allen about his favorite quotes and why he likes them. And he was mentioning that he has a little book, which I'm honored to be able to hold this book from 1977. He's written all his favorite quotes in this little book. And this is his life's philosophy, basically. You've lived with these quotes. This is like amazing. I feel like it's a treasure I'm holding in my hands. So, Coach Allen, thank you so much for sharing this. Tell me, what are the most favorites you like and why you like these quotes?
Well, I love quotes. I'm still collecting quotes. This is over a period of years, and I collect quotes all the time. But there's so many great people. There's so many. Gandhi, Goethe, Lord Chesterfield's one of my favorites. Oscar Wilde is one of my favorites. So you talk about the difference between masculine and feminine.
Yes.
I love Oscar Wilde.
Yes.
Lord Chesterfield, I love his quotes. There's innumerable numbers of quotes. And regarding the masculine and the feminine, I love that Susan Sontag quote, which talks about the most beautiful part of the masculine is the feminine part. And the most beautiful part of the feminine is the masculine part.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You shared that with me.
Yeah.
What a beautiful, once we balance that out and really respect inside and outside of ourselves, differences and the unity, how amazing and stronger we become as humans and as a collective.
Right.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I see you wrote here, live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever.
Yeah, Gandhi.
Yes.
Yeah, and that one just rings so true because you can't look at, hey, I'm not going to live much longer. I'm getting old. I want to be around for as long as possible.
Yes.
And I want to continue to learn, whether it's whatever it might be, politics, language, human beings. I want to learn more about my daughters.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're a great example because I feel like a lot of people in different cultures, when they are getting older, they're almost like they feel useless. They feel like, they're sitting and waiting to die. But I'm thinking every day that's given to you, make the most out of it.
Absolutely.
If you're here,
sure.
at least make the most out of it.
You got
That's
to.
how you're a perfect example of that.
Right, because
You
you don't have
30
forever.
years to go, minimum. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, you don't have forever, and that's why you can't waste time. I mean, everybody's got to rest, but there's so many things out there, so many places to go, so many people to meet, so many things to do. You know, why? How can you ever be bored? How can you stop? You just got to go. 1, 2, 3. Go. Again. Okay, boom, boom. Double jabs. Double jab and across. Boom.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I feel like as we get older, we have so much more to offer to the younger generations, to teach them, although things have changed with technology. But I still believe that that's what the younger generations miss, even if it's through social media. When an older person is talking, you want to learn from, even from me. And now I've become one of those people that other people want to learn from me, which is amazing. And I love to share. So don't do the mistakes I've done. You'll be way ahead of the game, almost, like I feel.
Well, working in the gym, and I'm coaching men and women and girls and boys, what I've learned is that I find that social media hasn't really helped socialize or get kids to learn things and to be closer to one another, to understand each other better. It can be a detriment. We all know that. We've got to be careful with that. That's why I like the gym environment, because we have male, female working together, mutually respecting what they're trying to do, and giving them guidance on how to become a better athlete, but at the same time becoming a better human being.
Absolutely.
And so that environment, I think, is ripe for developing human beings and their potentials.
That's beautiful. And in being in person, the person's energy is different. I know we're doing a lot of, especially after COVID, a lot of the Zoom meetings and all that, but being in person and feeling that person's energy, it's very different.
It's great. And in communication.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's great. It's a big difference, huge difference. Then, everybody's texting, including myself, and texting always comes up short. The meanings are so vague sometimes, and it's a shorthand that doesn't always work. It is a great convenience, but it doesn't beat being face to face.
Yes.
I agree. And understanding one another.
And hopefully we will bring more of that out with collective and bringing people together. So the other one is boxing teaches you that there is good stuff inside you. Never heard of that because I don't do boxing. Well, I actually do kickboxing, but mine doesn't count.
On that one, I'm not even sure of the attribution. I think I know who said it, and it's the same fella who wrote the book Rope Burns, FX Tool, who used to be what they call a cut man in the corner. And the next quote that I gave you on boxing, I think that's his. And I think those go together. And why don't you read that one?
Yes, I was thinking. I began to learn and to understand what had drawn me to boxing as a boy. It was the science of fighting and the heart it takes to be a fighter. Boxing was an exercise of the mind. That's
Isn't that
beautiful.
interesting? Isn't that interesting?
You
don't think
everything.
Of that. Yeah.
Your mind, your heart, and it's a science. Who looks at it that way? That's beautiful.
Well, boxing is known as the sweet science.
Sweet science.
The sweet science. It's been known that for many, many years. So obviously you want to learn the facts, the technology of boxing, if you will. The mind is immensely important in boxing because not only do you have to do all of the mechanical and the physical things, you have to do the psychic things. You have to do the mental things. And the other challenge in boxing and in other sports as well is that, as they say, if you think, you stink.
Oh.
And that goes in baseball. In other words, you're reacting in the ring. You've got a 2-minute round or a 3-minute round, you're reacting. So you've got to have muscle memory, and you've got to have that mindset that you are automatically reacting, taking care of business, as it were.
And would you say that's more intuitive, or it comes from skill?
I think both. I think both. So that's why some people can do it and some people can't. It is intuitive, but one has to learn.
Exactly, the skills.
And the skill, it's not only the skills, but learn how to be in the ring and how to be with boxing. And some can do it, some can't, and some can do it extremely well. We all know about Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson and so forth.
Absolutely. And they were the real, I think they were the examples, the real good examples of boxers who were not into so much vulgarity. It was really the sport itself.
Right.
Really
right.
respecting the sport
Right.
itself. So Coach Allen, what do you think about the state of the current combat art at this point?
Well, I see a lot of good boxers, so I'm confident that boxing is going to continue. I like that, what I see. There's a lot of good fighters coming up. I'm concerned about some of the other combat arts, MMA, where guys are trying to learn too quickly.
Yes.
They're not taking the time. And MMA is extremely challenging because now we're talking about multiple disciplines. Boxing being one of them. Boxing is one of the disciplines in MMA. MMA takes on wrestling, it takes on martial arts, etc. And you have to learn all of that to be effective in MMA. There's even bare knuckle boxing or bare knuckle fighting now. And what bothers me a little bit is that we've spent well over a century civilizing the sport of boxing. And now it seems that we're devolving, going backwards into blood sport, which is brutal. And I miss the style. I miss the gentlemanly art of self-defense. And I wish that we would temper our pursuits and get better at what we're doing in the ring, in the cage, and lighten up on the vulgarity, lighten up on, hey, I'm the greatest thing ever, and earn it. That's the only thing that I question about it. And I hope that we can return to some kind of classic moderation, in what we do. And another great quote, when your work speaks for itself, don't interrupt.
That's beautiful. I like that. Yes. So what would your suggestion and advice would be for the new boxers, the new generations? Because right now what's happening with MMA, maybe they're in their 30s, 40s, I don't know the age, but there's my kids, they're 15 and 17. What would it be? Like, how could they go back to really balancing this out, and rather than it being like more of an animals attacking each other, how can they go back to how it used to be?
Well, maybe spending a little less time on social media, and the short bursts of bravado that we see, and maybe reading a book, going to a gym, delving into an art or a study, a field of endeavor, delving into that, learning about that, pacing yourself, and less is more sometimes.
Yes.
And not following the crowd. Once that lesson that I learned early in my life, you don't have to always be a follower.
Absolutely.
Try to be self-reliant, do what's right, get a sense of what's right and wrong early on and follow that. And the art of the gentleman is still, to me, it's the ultimate goal, being a gentleman. And what's the definition of a gentleman? Intrinsically, the meaning is that I have gentleness.
Absolutely. Yes.
But one can be a fighter, one can be a boxer, and still be a gentleman. The first big heavyweight champion of the modern era of boxing, 1892, Gentleman Jim Corbett. And he took down the burly, the brawny, the bully, John L. Sullivan. And since that happened, I've always honed toward, and I wasn't around 1892, but the gentlemanly boxer and a gentleman in life.
Absolutely. The high value men. That's
Thank you.
what that's why I wanna do these interviews. to set good examples for young men and for women too, to see that no, there are actually great men out there. Because, you know, the social media or whatever, the news, they're always concentrating on more just for the profits of it. But there's a lot of good men out there, like yourself, that are still holding strong so that people can look up to.
Thank you. Well, I'm trying to impart that, by the way, in my coaching.
Yes, I see it with my kids.
It's
and
not just
my boys love you. And they really see the difference.
Yeah.
They go to the social media, then they box with you and privately train with you. And they're like, wow, what a difference. Like, this is how a man could be. And I love that they're coaching with you. So my thing will be, you do private coachings, you do it at the gym, you do it privately as well. So we would definitely share your information. Whomever wants to reach out to you, they can reach out to you, and really they will be blessed to have you as their coach, because you bring forth so much knowledge and really classic boxing.
Exactly. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Coach Allen.
My pleasure.
It's so good to have you. Thank you.
And I appreciate what you're doing. It's very important.
Yes.
Good luck and continued success.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on. Short, compact. Elbows in, elbows in, elbows in. Come on, work. Work. Jab. Jab. 1, 2, come on. 1, 2, 3.
I'm here at Dr. Netta's office again. I'm a regular patient. I come for acupuncture and massage. I love the acupuncture, especially for my allergies. It's really helped clear my sinuses. And, you know, this time of year, it's really difficult for me with my allergies. I don't like to take the medication, so I find that the acupuncture helps. I've also been helped in my neck and shoulders and my lower back. And I highly recommend the service here. Dr. Marjan and Dr. Netta are just wonderful. And I hope to see you here.
I was so glad to see Carlos when he came to see us, because he had sharp shooting pain on the right side of his body and it would switch over to his left side. He had sciatica, numbness in both feet. He also had very bad low back pain and knee pain. So the other doctors suggested that he needs to lose weight to relieve the pressure off his joints. But because of his weight, he had no energy to go to the gym, exercise, or even walk around the block. The good news is, after 8 months on our all-natural fat loss, easy-to-use products with no dietary restrictions, he was able to lose a whole human. He lost 158 pounds. He basically became a whole brand new person. He looks amazing. He has very high energy. All his aches and pains are significantly reduced, where he almost doesn't feel them anymore. He's going to the gym, playing basketball, and he's going out and meeting new people. We're so pleased that our products changed his whole entire life.
Please go ahead and hit that like button, comment, ask questions, share, and subscribe. You're a very valuable part of this movement, and your opinion really matters. Thank you very much. Light, love, and blessings to you all.